The NFL and Seahawks are back. The gold Mamba is here to stay, and we try to figure out exactly where the Mariners are going. Welcome back to another episode of the Seattle Sports Show. I'm your host, Mikey. Let's talk some Seahawks, baby. I am recording this episode on opening day eve, so as you can imagine, it's like Christmas Eve, right? Where we're going to bed tonight and just so excited to wake up in the morning and know that it is a day where our favorite football team is going to be playing a meaningful regular season game, right? We are excited about that. I'm so excited about the NFL being back in general, and really excited to be cheering on this team in particular this year for the Seattle Seahawks, because I think this team is going to be a good team. All right, but here's what we know heading into week 1 for our Seattle Seahawks. Jamal Adams, like they said, they want to wait for him to get right. That way, when he gets back, he stays back. All right, so he's out week 1. He will not be playing in this game. What we do know about Jamal Adams, though, is that his deal was restructured. All right, so he saved the Seahawks a few million dollars this year. Now, it's pretty insane the way they restructured his contract and where they pushed money, because now the next 2 years he's going to be making like it's like in the mid 20s, like 24-25 million dollars the next couple of years, which is, already a lot for a strong safety, and that is a lot for somebody who has not been able to play and show that he could still do it for quite some time now because of his injury. So we'll have to see if is that the kind of money that is worth paying to him in the future, but we don't have to worry about that right now. What we need to worry about this year is him getting back on the field, getting healthy, and getting back on the field to help this team. We know that's not going to be week 1, but we know it will be sometime fairly soon. Hopefully week 2. Now, with the restructuring of that deal, that did save us a little bit of money for this year, so that might give us some potential room to move things around to either sign or trade for somebody still at some point during this season. But we'll talk about that more in a minute. The next thing, Jackson Smith and Jigba will be playing week 1. Yes, even with the wrist surgery that he had almost a month ago now, he is ready to go. All right. Yeah, the bone, it had a break, got in there, had a little surgery. I'm sure they probably put a little pin in there for it to heal even faster. Boom, he's ready to go. He's been wearing like heavily wrapped wrist. People that have been at the practices have been noticing that it's a little bit smaller and a little bit smaller as we've been going along. So he's been getting used to playing with that wrist being bandaged up, but then now he's should even have more flexibility with it healing over this amount of time and not having to wear as much tape. Right, so he's going to be good to go. Um, Unfortunately, Kenny McIntosh placed on the IR. Um, Again, to me, that's a bummer because I think he could be somebody that contributes on this team. So it's a bummer that it's not going to be anytime soon. When you get placed on the IR at this point in the season, you have to miss at least 4 games. So he's going to be gone at least the first 4 games. We have a bye week in week 5, so we won't see him until the earliest potentially it would be week 6 of the season. It would be our 5th game, but it'll be week 6. So we'll see if he's able to recover and come back by that time. There's not any other major notable injuries or people that we were worried if they're going to play or not. Besides Jordan Brooks, right? Is he going to play? It sounds like the last time I heard they made it sound like he was going to play. So excited to see him out there on the field. Okay, so now we know the injuries, we know who's playing, who's not playing. Let's take a look at our opponents. Cooper Kupp, same deal with them. They needed to place him on the IR with his hamstring thing that he's got going on, that he went and saw a body specialist for. He's gone, so he's going to be on the IR. He's got to miss at least 4 games, which means he's missing this first game against us. And then overall with the Rams, that leaves them with very few offensive threats. I mean, at that point now, their most established weapon outside of Matthew Stafford, the quarterback, right, is Cam Akers. That's been great. And so that's going to be a big test for us. Can we stop the running back? And then outside of that, the next biggest offensive weapon that's established is Tyler Higbee. And again, he's a tight end. So that's not usually the type of player that you're worried about them getting a ton of volume or getting huge numbers on you. We got Bobby Wagner back. We got a slew of great cornerbacks and safeties. So I don't imagine, I would be very surprised if teams are able to dice us up the middle like they have in the past. Just with the personnel that we have and the type of defense that we're running. The improvement in talent that we have in the linebacker core should help improve that situation. I mean, it's been pretty bad the last couple of years with our linebackers not being able to cover in the zone, right? Again, Bobby Wagner being back, I think, is going to be a huge important piece for that. And I don't expect Tyler Higbee to be going off on us this week. And then with the Rams, their defense is so much weaker this year. I mean, yes, they still have Aaron Donald, and he is a game wrecker. He might be able to change the entire game himself. That's just how good he is. But he doesn't have anybody else around him on that side of the ball. They went for it a couple of years ago, and you have to commend them. They won the Super Bowl that year, right? They won the Super Bowl, but now they are where we all knew they would end up, right? They bet the farm on that year, and it was a good bet because they won the Super Bowl. But now they're paying the price, right? Can't afford all your stars, so they're gone, and unfortunately, the stars that they were able to retain um, injured. So, uh, yeah, I'm expecting the Seahawks offense to have a field day against this Rams defense this week. So, with our own team, what are we looking for in the Seahawks? We want to see the running defense improved. We want to see it right out of the gate in this game because if the Rams come in here week 1 and they establish the run against us with Cam Akers, that is not going to be a good look. That's going to signal to all the other teams that are on our schedule that, hey, these guys did not improve over last year. We know the plan of attack because we already know what works against them. We want to come out here week 1, establish, no, we are stout against the run game this year. You're not going to run up the middle against us because we got Bobby Wagner back, so he's going to get people in the right position. The defensive line overall is going to be better. Draymond Jones, Jaron Reed, plugging the poles in the middle, giving lanes for Bobby Wagner to come up and make no tackles for no gain, maybe some tackles for losses. We'll see. But definitely we don't want to see people popping off 4 or 5 yard runs for us at a time with this new run defense. We want to see no gain. Bobby comes up and stops him in the hole, 1 to 2 yards. Keep the other offense in third and longs is what we're looking to see. We're looking for pressure on the opposing QB as well. Again, with Draymond Jones, Uchenna Nwosu, Mafe, Jaron Reed, these are all guys that can get pressure on passing plays. So it's very similar to what we had with the LOB, right? Nobody talks about it because we had the LOB, and the LOB was the loudest part of the team. But that defensive line that we had was great. Okay, people always like to talk about how, the LOB was so great. It made the defensive line even better because they were covering players so well that it gave the defensive line more time to get to the quarterbacks. That as much as that somewhat's true, like that defensive line was great. They were going to get to the quarterback. Same thing with this set of defensive linemen. We want to see them here in week 1 showing that yes, they are that good. That Draymond Jones was worth that money. That Jaron Reed is going to look like he did when he was with the Seahawks originally. That Nuoso is going to play up to the level and hopefully go beyond that this year of what he did last year. And then Mafe is going to have a breakout year this year. We want to see that pressure on the opposing QB because, again, we do have a back end that is fantastic. And you know what? If we can get pressure on Matthew Stafford this week, I think it's going to be great for us because, again, he doesn't have a ton of established players that he has great chemistry with out there this week. So that on top of getting pressured, that should just really frustrate him all game long, hopefully. We want to see our offensive line keep pressure off of Geno. Okay, we have the 2 sophomores this year, right? Coming off the rookie year on both tackles. We want to see how much they improve. We want to see that they did improve. Great rookie years. Yeah, they as you see with rookies, especially on offensive line, they're not used to the length of an NFL season. So you could see at the end of last year that they were getting, they were they were feeling the effects of a longer season. We want to see it right out of the gate this season. In the beginning, you should be fresh. You're used to the NFL schedule now. Let's establish dominance on the offensive line, both in the passing game and in the rushing game. Okay, so we want to establish that we're keeping pressure off of Geno, and then in the running game that we are blowing people off the line. Again, they really the one star that they're going to have is Aaron Donald, and I don't expect anybody to just stop him. But the other guys that they have on their defensive line, we need to be pushing them around. Okay, we need to get lanes open for K9. Okay, he doesn't have the greatest vision, especially when he's running up the middle. Right, like K9 is great running outside the tackles. Inside the tackles, not the greatest. But if you open up those holes for him, he's going to see him, because there's going to be no way not to see him if we can knock the opposing defensive lineman off the line. And he is so explosive that if you give him some big lanes, he will get through them and he will be off to the races. That is like the big bonus that you get out of a player like K9. But you need to really open up those lanes so that he can see them and he can read where he's supposed to be going. I mean, maybe he's improved in that because this will be his second year now, but that remains to be seen. But let's just make sure that we establish that the offensive line can get the blocking part done of it. Done, because again, if you can block well for K9, he's the type of guy that can get an explosive play for 20, 30, 40 yards. And then we want to see the passing game established and be successful at all levels. That means the short, intermediate, and deep balls. Okay, we've had issues with short and intermediate the last couple of years, because DK and Tyler Lockett, they're both great. They can get separation, they can get down the field, right? But tight ends and slot, we've been missing that. Defenses didn't have to respect the short to intermediate game in the middle of the field. Now with JSN, and I think we have 3 good tight ends. So we got to establish that, hey, you need to be respecting and covering the routes that we are running in the middle of the field, which will only help DK and Lockett get open that much more on the outside. Okay, so we want to see them. Everybody loves the deep ball, right? We love it, but we want to see the short and intermediate passes being successful as well, and that it's a consistent thing throughout the game, not just like, oh, hey, they did it on that play, that looks great. We want to see that happening a lot, because that's how you get a offense like Pete Carroll's to run exactly how you want it to run, right? You need to be running, you need to be establishing short stuff up the middle. That way, that suckers the defense in to covering the middle more and biting on stuff in the middle that will get those receivers on the outside, like DK and Lockett, running those streaks up the sidelines and getting open in the end zone, right? That's what we want to see. Let's end our Seahawks discussion here with a prediction. Those are the things we want to see, and in this first game against the Rams, I do believe we will see those things. Again, the Rams team that is just, they've been depleted of a lot of star talent. They have injuries. This is a week 1 opener we should be feeling lucky to have, because we should be dominant in this, and we should get a week 1 win that will give us confidence. The team is going to have confidence going forward. All right, I expect this one to be a blowout. Seahawks win 34-13. That's my prediction. And yeah, I mean, like I said, they're gonna do it all those ways with this stuff that they need to establish. I think they can get it done in this game. Um, but we'll see. I want to hear your predictions. Leave it in the comments. Let me know how you think the Seahawks are going to do in the game this week. All right, let's go ahead and talk some Mariners and figure out where they're going. All right, so the Mariners they're still in the middle of the road trip. The since we last been on the episode or recorded an episode, we've lost to New York Mets 6-3. We lost to Cincinnati 6-3. Lost to Cincinnati 7-6. We won that last game against Cincinnati, thankfully 8-4, and then we won against Tampa Bay 1-0. Then we lost to Tampa 7-4. Lost to Tampa today 7-5. And what I'm watching when I'm watching these games is the pitching is not what it has been all year. We see the relievers. They've been worked a lot lately, right? And they're looking gassed. They're getting rung up. Munoz in general. To me, and it's just how I watch baseball. I only watch the Mariners. I'm not watching all the other teams. So when I'm watching them, I'm looking at Munoz and I'm going, "Oh my gosh, this does not look good. He doesn't look right." And I'm nervous every time he's out there in a late game situation where we're barely holding on to a lead. Then we come to find out he was named the reliever of the month for August, and he had the most saves of the month. It sure, as a Mariners fan watching the games, it sure didn't feel like it, right? And it's showing up now in recent games with these losses. At this point now, in our last 10, we are 4-6. Okay, again, no time to panic. We are still firmly in a playoff spot. Okay, we are, still fighting for the division as well. I mean, at this point, again, we're holding on to that second wild card spot. We're a game and a half ahead of Texas in the wild card spot, who is now completely fallen out of the wild card. Remember, at one point they were 10 games ahead of us for the lead of this division. They have fallen all the way down to being a game and a half out of the wild card. We are still in that wild card, and for the division itself, after today's loss, we have now fallen a game and a half back for the division. There is 20 games left. And then you have to remember this schedule that we are playing is every game is going to have meaning down the stretch. It's just, we're already at a point in the season because of how close we are in the race. Every game matters, but it's just like intensified because of who we're playing against. We have another game against Tampa Bay tomorrow, and that game, Tampa Bay, they're also holding one of the wild card spots. So this is a potential playoff preview, and right now we're losing it. So I'm watching the team, and overall, most of the time it looks like they're playing like they are a playoff team. But then again, the pitching at some point during the game will all of a sudden break down, and then it doesn't look like playoff pitching. So it's not a good time for the pitching to start dropping off, because this is when we need it most. You know, and we see young guys getting tired. We see Brian Wu. He was obviously his arm. He just came back from the IL, right? And his arm's not all the way back yet. And this is already the longest he's been playing. Into a season, anyways. So he's a rookie. His arm might be getting gassed. Bryce Miller, same thing, getting gassed. George Kirby, only his second year, same thing. And we even heard his frustration from the game yesterday. Calling out his skipper after the game in front of the media, saying, "Oh, well, I was at 90 pitches, so I didn't know if I needed to really go back out for the seventh inning." That didn't sit right with me when I watched it. It was like, oh man, and not because of like what a lot of people I see on social media saying like, oh, well, he's soft. Oh, I can't believe he would say that. What kind of competitor would say that they didn't want to go back out for another inning? No, that's not what bothered me. What bothered me is that he said it to the media and didn't talk to the manager about it first. Behind closed doors. He's putting it out there. Thankfully, because he said they didn't have a discussion about it in the clubhouse before he went back out in the seventh inning. And then he said, "Oh, well, yeah, we didn't have a discussion then, but there's going to be discussion about it." Sounds like there was, and I'm glad he came back out today and before today's game, which again they lost. But at least he came out there in front of the media and said, "Hey, I'm sorry. That's not me. I shouldn't have done that. And yeah, I should want to go back out there and take the mound. That's not me. I was frustrated in the moment. And, I'm a competitor. I want to be out there. And that's not who I am." And we've seen George Kirby. That's not something I ever would have expected. Again, remember, we have a really young team. We have Jared Kelenic, who I've been watching do his rehab assignment down there in Tacoma. He's looking good. I can't wait for him to come back, hopefully on Monday against the Angels. But yeah, this is a young team. Somebody like Kelenic he gets frustrated, he goes and kicks a cooler. George Kirby, early 20s as well, gets mad after a game, says something to the media that does not sound favorable to himself or the manager. Okay, but it got remedied quickly, in my opinion, and it was handled the right way. So I think this team is young. A lot of them are getting tired. They haven't been this far into the season before. And remember, even though the Mariners team, the Mariners made the playoffs last year, the Mariners team in general, a lot of these players don't have a lot of playoff experience, and some of them are still really young, and a lot of them weren't. Again, pitching, we got a lot of rookies this year who were not up on the main roster last year during the playoff run. Okay, so they don't have this playoff experience. They haven't been to this deep into a season, so we're seeing how they're going to handle it. And they're going to have to handle it if we're going to make the playoffs again, because we're in a race right now. We are in a three-way race to either win the division or completely fall out of the playoffs. I won't be surprised if any of those things happen. I will not be surprised if we win the division. I will not be surprised if we get a wild card spot. I will not be surprised if something happens over the last 20 games and we miss the playoffs completely, because that's how close this race is right now. Now we have a couple of teams left on our schedule that should be favorable to us. Again, we still have one more game against Tampa Bay to get through. That's tough. Again, they are a playoff caliber quality team. Angels, they were seen as maybe being that at one point. And again, they're another one that they were a few games ahead of us as well in the race, and they were going for the wild card. They went all in trying to get into the playoffs, and then they fell out so fast that all the players that they signed or they traded for at the deadline, they have let them all go already to try to save some money. That's how far they've fallen. So hopefully they're still in that situation, and over the next 3 games against them, this year 3 game series we have against them, hopefully we can take care of business there. Then we have the Dodgers. That's going to be a tough series. Then we have the Athletics again. Then so we're almost kind of in a pattern here. We have the Angels, they're falling. We have the Dodgers, they're great. We have the Athletics. We saw how they fell to the bottom of the league this year. Then we have the Rangers, who potentially could be in, could be out. Then we have the Astros, who are playing like, okay, they finally decided they want to try to win this division this year. And then we have the Rangers to end the season again. Who again? I mean, we might come down to the very last game, which I am going to, by the way, against the Rangers, and that game itself could very well decide it. Are we winning the division? It could decide, are we, in the wild card, and what wild card spot are we getting, or it might decide if we are even in the playoffs at all. That's how close we are in the last stretch here. And because of our last 1 2 3 4 5 6 10 games are all against the Rangers and Astros, and that is the 3-way race that we are in right now. The Mariners, Rangers, and Astros, the last 10 games are all played against each other while we try to win this division or win one of the wild card spots. It is going to be so much fun. It is so much fun watching right now. I understand that it is stressful watching each loss that they get right now, but remember, we are at this point still very well established in a wild card spot. It's no need to panic. I see people on social media out there being like, after a loss right now, each loss are like, oh, I knew it. The Mariners, they're the worst team in baseball, and they're not going to be in the playoffs. While we still, I mean, people were saying that when we were still leading the division and we had a loss. you know, we had a loss and like, oh, I knew it. And then the Rangers and Astros both lost that day as well, and we were still a game ahead. Now again, we are now a game and a half back for the division, but it's like, after each loss, you would think the world was completely ending. We're not the worst team in baseball. We never were, not even at the beginning of the year when we were 50-50. Again, never losing more than 3 games in a row, and we weren't winning more than 3 more at the time. So, we've never been the worst team at any point during the season, and we're not now. So let's cool it, let's relax, take a breath, watch the games, and enjoy it for what they are. Cheer them on because they need it, right? I mean, they're a young team. They're going to feed off energy. When we get our homestand here against both LA teams this coming week, you got to be out there at the park. You got to be giving them their energy. They feed off of it, and it's going to help get them. It's going to help get them the wins and help us hopefully get back to the top of the division. Okay, so we really don't know where the Mariners are headed right now with how close this race is, but it's going to be a fun watch. But yeah, that's what I have to say about the Mariners. They really need to figure out just the pitching overall. I know today they ran out relievers for the entire game to try to save some of the starters' arms over the day, so they can kind of try to change the pitching rotation as well to save some of those younger arms. But they got to figure out the reliever situation as well, and how they're how and when they're bringing them in, and if those guys can not give up leads when we have them, because that's what we've been doing all year, and we need to keep doing it if we're gonna definitely win the division. But yeah, if we're gonna stay in the playoffs at all, the bullpen needs to step it up. Right there's your Mariners. This week, again, off season. You know, it's going pretty slow for the Kraken, so I don't really have any Kraken news to talk about uh, today. But we have some Seattle Storm news to get to, so let's go ahead and talk some Storm. All right, and we got some huge news to talk with the Storm. Um, it was announced today that Jewel Lloyd has um, signed a new deal. She has extended contract. They didn't give out the details. I've seen reports saying that it's a 2-year extension, 1 year being the supermax. So, uh, from what I'm seeing right now, it's a 2-year deal, which is fantastic to have Jewel Lloyd staying here. We want the Gold Mamba here. She now has the single season scoring record in the WNBA with 911 points at this point, and there's still one more game left to go. So she could very well add on to it. And yeah, just glad to have her around. Like I said, there was a few weeks ago where somebody mentioned on commentary on one of the games that they said, "Oh yeah, well Jewel Lloyd, her contract's coming up." So, and it was another game where the Storm were struggling; they were way behind. But again, Jewel Lloyd was having a fantastic game. So commentary was kind of making it sound like, well, she's really great. Is she really going to want to stay here? We're going to have to see what she decides to do in the offseason. Well, I'm glad it didn't even get to the offseason. We did it with just a couple games left to go. They got the deal signed, they got it done, and she's going to be here. We couldn't afford to lose her. I mean, she's the type of player, after losing Sue Bird and Breanna Stewart, if Jewel Lloyd was gone too, like, I would have no hope for next year. With the record that we have this year, we ended up at this point we're 11-28. There's only one more game left to go. And it doesn't matter if we win or lose this last game. No matter what, we are going to be in the lottery. And also, no matter what, we are going to have, based off this last game, it doesn't matter. If we win or lose, we're still going to have the smallest chance, which is like 10.4% of getting the first overall pick in the lottery. Based off, again, the WNBA has a 2-year rule. So they combined last year's record with this year's record. And out of the teams that are getting in the lottery, combining the 2 years, we had the best record with the 2 years combined, so we get the smallest chance in the lottery. So if we were having the smallest chance to get the #1 pick and Jewel Lloyd left, I would not feel good about next year's team, but I would feel good about getting next year's #1 overall pick, because this year's record, as bad as it looks now, I imagine it would be even worse if we didn't have Jewel Lloyd coming back next year. So we'll see. Well, we're guaranteed a top 4 pick this year. Thankfully, we know that we're getting Jewel Lloyd back. I think Ezzy is great. Dulcie, I think she's shown a lot of promise. Jordan Horston, I think down the stretch here, she has finally, it looks like she's been putting some more of the game together and playing, at the WNBA professional level now. There was games there where she didn't look like she looked like a rookie. She didn't always look like she was, her head was above water. Sometimes she looked like she was in over her head sometimes against, WNBA talent. But she's been figuring it out. So somebody like Jewel Lloyd, Ezzy, Jordan coming back next year, and whoever we get in the draft. Again, a guaranteed top 4 pick. I'm not saying that we're gonna win the championship next year, but I'm thinking this team, a young team, with so many of them showing promise, I think we could be very much improved next year. So we'll see how it works. Again, that's gonna really depend on the team. Again, playing consistent over a 4-quarter series, playing good team defense. It's gonna take a lot, but I'm excited to see where it goes. So yeah, so there's the Storm. um that's all I have to say about them. Let's go ahead and the other news that we have this week. Again, Sounders are off right now, since the last episode. So let's go ahead and we can talk a little bit of the OL Reign and what they've been doing. All right, and since the last episode of this show, the OL Reign got a win against the Orlando Pride, 1-0. Jordan Heidema scored a goal in the 49th minute, and then we were able to hold them off the rest of the game. Boom, that's all you need. We did it, got the win. Now the OL Reign, they also got into the Challenge Cup, right? And they were doing really great in that. They got to the semifinals. Couple of injuries. Rose Lavelle didn't play, and this game I didn't get to watch. I was at work, but we ended up losing to Louisville 1-0, so we didn't advance in the Challenge Cup. And then next game for the OL Reign now, it's not coming until September 16th against a huge rival, the Portland Thorns. But the team's looking good, looking strong. Again, couple of injuries, but now, between the last game on the 6th and now the next game on the 16th, hopefully that's enough time to get some practices in, where all the teams all the players that came back from the national team can get reestablished, get everybody going again for this team, and start picking up some more wins for us down the stretch. We just got 4 games left in the regular season at this point. The OL Reign, they're sitting in the 4th spot for the playoffs. We again, Reign over the last 4 games as well. They're same situation as the Mariners, right? It's really close race this year, so every point matters. We had a string of like 3 straight losses at some point recently before we won that last game against Orlando. We can't afford to do that again. We cannot afford to be having multiple losses in a row during these last games. We need to be, at the very least, be getting draws so that we can keep adding points onto our total. But some wins would be great as well. So yeah, there's your OL Reign. Be excited. If you can, you should really try to get out to these last couple of matches that they have at home. Get to see Megan Rapinoe before she retires. I know the last home game on October 6th, Pearl Jam's doing like a promotion with them as well. So, the first however many fans are going to get like a Pearl Jam OL Reign themed scarf. So you're gonna get that, plus you're gonna get to see the send off for Megan Rapinoe for the regular season. I think that would be one worth going to for sure. Uh, and yeah, that's really the Sea Dragons. Of course, they are still in the off season as well, so nothing to talk about there. So that we're coming to the end of the show here. Okay, so I'll just remind you again of everything that we talked about here. The Seahawks. I want to know, what's your prediction? Are you as confident as me about this Week 1 opponent against the Seahawks going up against the Rams? You think it's gonna? We think we're gonna blow them out, or do you expect it to be a lot closer? The Mariners. If you're a Mariners fan, how are you feeling? Okay, let me know. I mean, like I said, I think we all need to just relax and, uh, not feel like it's the end of the world yet. Every game matters at this point, but they are not out of the playoffs. They're still fighting for the division. They're not, you know, we're not heading to be the worst team in baseball. But again, if you feel that way, hey, you feel that way. But tell me why you feel that way. I want to know. Uh, and again, the Storm. You got to be excited that Jewel Lloyd's coming back, right? But obviously, this team needs to do a lot to improve. Like, so I want to know, what's the biggest thing you think the Storm can do to improve next year? All right. And yeah, that's going to be the episode. Make sure you're hitting that subscribe button. Make sure you're hitting the notification so you know when the new episodes are up. Make sure you're sharing the video again, because that's what this show is about. We're fans and we want to share our love of the teams with other fans. So we want to spread that love and share it with the rest of the community. And things that you can do to help the show besides that is, if whatever podcast platform you're listening on, if you give it a review, if you give it a rating, that stuff all helps people find the show easier as well when they're searching through their podcast platforms and looking for new shows to listen to. All right, and that is going to be the episode. So thank you so much for listening. This has been the Seattle Sports Show, where we love Seattle sports and we watch legends awaken and breathe fire. So take cover, because with a sea of sound, you will see us rise to reign supreme and win forever.